This is the Nanda Devi, India's second highest peak. Something unexpected happened in the Nanda Devi Glacier on the morning of February 7th, 2021. A portion of the glacier broke off near Joshimath in the Uttarakhand Chamoli district and fell into the Daliganga River. It triggered an avalanche and a deluge in the Alakananda river system. The sudden flash floods washed away every single thing in its path. From bridges to roads to houses, everything was destroyed. At least 30 people were swept away alive, and more than 170 are still missing. The gushing water damaged two power projects, the Rishiganga Hydel project and the NTPC Tapavan Vishnugad Hydel project. A high alert has been sounded in the surrounding districts of Pauri, Tehri, Rudraprayag, Rishikesh, Haridwar, and Dehradun.
The difference between life and death was just 2 minutes. If we had not run and even delayed 2 minutes, we would have died. Around 25 to 30 of us survived.
I was working down and the others were up. And suddenly the workers started screaming, "Run, run, run away, water is coming." I ran and escaped, and many just couldn't escape and were trapped.
When the glacier broke, it looked like a whole cloudburst all the way filling the entire valley, and we could feel the earth shake. And then the water rushed in full force with all the debris and material on its way.
और उसके बाद एकाएक पानी का फोर्स और पूरा जितना भी रॉ मटेरियल था वो उसके साथ बहने लग गया था.
A massive search and rescue operation is underway to save the trapped workers from the Tapovan tunnel in Uttarakhand. The 12-foot high and 15-foot wide tunnel is over 2.5 kilometers long, with just one entry that is blocked with slush and debris. The chaos brings back memories of the 2013 North India floods when the banks of the Choribari Lake in Kedarnath collapsed due to a cloudburst. A major flash flood caused widespread destruction in Uttarakhand and left over 5,000 people dead and led to heavy losses in infrastructure and agricultural land. Incidents like the 2021 Uttarakhand glacial outburst flood are rare so early in the year.
So it is unusual for these events to occur in the winter. That's undoubtedly true. The root cause of this problem is that these high mountain areas consist of a mixture of rock with lots of fractures in them, and the fractures are filled with ice. And in the exceptionally warm summers that we're now receiving, the ice is degrading and melting. So actually the initiation of this event would have been right back in the summer, when some of the ice melted in the mass that collapsed. That weakened the rock mass, and then over a period of time it's just progressively weakened until it eventually fell off. It's a bit like, you know, if you're driving down a road and the exhaust pipe on your car falls off. You know, very often you can't say that the exhaust pipe fell off for a particular reason. It's just that over a period of time it was weakening and perhaps rusting. And then eventually one day it gets so weak that it falls off. And it literally is exactly what happened in this event.
But avalanches and flash flooding in the Himalayas are common during summer and monsoon months. So what is the impact of human activities on the occurrence of such natural hazards?
There was so much amount of a dynamite blasting because of the Rishi Ganga and the Dhauli Ganga project in that region. Then a deforestation that has already been going on in this place. The third has been that the whole of this region is not at all recommendable from the perspective of the building of such type of small dams. And we have kept on building small dams, unmindful of the fact that such type of disaster can happen. Can you imagine, Rini has been a village where the Chipko movement is started. That is the place, and that is one of the places that has been affected.
The wind was extraordinary and it was pulling me away. I was just there, and when I landed, I couldn't make sense where I was. I couldn't even open my eyes. There were big rocks and I just covered myself with my hands and left.
When we came here, we saw that there is nothing left. No sign of him at all. I have 3 children. How will I take care of them? What will I do?
While it's too early to conclusively determine how the disaster began, experts say heavy snowfall followed by bright sunshine led to excessive snowmelt, triggering a chain reaction that led to the avalanche.
It has not been snow falling for some amount of a time in Uttarakhand region. That's one. Second is, it went on to snowfall heavily for about 3 or 4 days, and then thereafter, it was a sudden warmth. So what happened was that this warming allowed a good amount of melting to take place, loosened the glacier, and after having got itself loosened, it went on to spill off. It went on to break off from the rest of the region.
It's not a glacial burst. We have excellent satellite images from the day before the disaster, and from the day of the disaster itself. So we can see what happened immediately after the accident occurred. And that demonstrates absolutely categorically that the cause of this disaster was not a glacial burst. It was this big block of rock that came off the mountainside. We can see the scar that it's left. We can see the dust in the valley that the rock avalanche created. And we can see the entirety of the track of the landslide right the way down to the location of the dam.
What caused the Uttarakhand Glacier disaster? The environmental disaster has once again turned the spotlight on climate change and its impact on ecology. Stone quarrying, blasting of mountains, deforestation, digging of tunnels, road constructions, experts believe increasing human intervention in the ecologically sensitive Himalayan region is making it more vulnerable to climate change.
We are constructing houses or building materials which are not desirable in such type of a place like Uttarakhand. And that is going to be made of concrete and other aspects. Now, because we are making it out of concrete, concrete has an ability to absorb a good amount of temperature, and after it has absorbed it, it releases it. So the temperature increases. A road construction and lot of dam construction that is going to be taking place in this region has been another part of it. Now, all in all, when you're going to couple it with the global rise in the temperature, the Himalayas don't have any place to hide at all. So global rise of temperature or local rise of a temperature, that is a major reason. And that is climatic change. You can go to say that is going to be a shift in a snowfall pattern, because most of the snowfall sometime back used to be taking place in January, and now it has shifted towards the first week of February. So there is certain degree of a change that is taking place right now.
The state of Uttarakhand is prone to flash floods and landslides, and the disaster has prompted calls by environmental groups for a review of power projects in the region.
The construction of these dams is leading to more landslides. It's leading to landslides that unfortunately kill people, including the workers who are constructing the dams. And when the valleys are flooded, it's leading to environmental impacts upstream and downstream. So my point is really not that we shouldn't be building dams at all, but that actually we should be thinking more carefully and undertaking greater assessments of the impact of these dams and thinking through ways of trying to minimize those impacts before we construct them.
A report by Kathmandu-based International Center for Integrated Mountain Development states that temperatures are rising in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. 36% of the volume of glaciers will be gone by the end of 2100, even if the world manages to keep the temperature rise within the 1.5 degrees Celsius target of the Paris Climate Agreement. The 2019 study, spanning 40 years of satellite observation across India, China, Nepal, and Bhutan, indicates that climate change is eating the Himalayas glaciers. It didn't include the huge adjoining ranges of high mountain Asia, such as the Pamir, Hindu Kush, or Tian Shan, but research suggests similar melting is underway in those mountain ranges too. Shocking and distressing, isn't it? However, the Himalayas are not melting as fast as the Alps. As climate change forces up temperatures, 2/3 of the ice in the glaciers of the Alps is doomed to melt by the end of the century. The Alps are the highest mountains in Europe, stretching approximately 1,200 kilometers across 8 alpine countries. The Swiss Alps are often characterized as the most spectacular part of the Alps. While many countries banned skiing during the coronavirus pandemic, Switzerland kept its ski slopes open this winter. Unfortunately, there have been several accidents. In January 2021, 10 people were swept away when a snowdrift came loose in the popular alpine resort of Verbier. To the east of Geneva, one British skier was killed. Another skier died after being buried in an avalanche in Stade. Studies establish that about 2,000 people have died in avalanches in Switzerland since 1936. On average, 24 people die in avalanches in the country every year. The frequency and intensity of snow avalanches are linked to global warming, as are retreating glaciers. 2018 was a terrible year for Swiss glaciers. Despite an exceptional snow-filled winter, Swiss glaciers lost over 2.5% of their volume. And a year later, the situation worsened. According to the Swiss Academy of Sciences, glacial melt rates reached record levels during the summer heat waves of 2019. This led to another year of major losses of ice volume. Look at this. 150 years ago, the Rhone Glacier stretched all the way down to this point in this valley. But like all the glaciers in the Swiss Alps, it's melting, and melting fast. Every year, a group of residents make its way to the Rhone Glacier to cover up the ice in huge white blankets that reflect the sun to prevent melting. It may not look like a high-tech solution, but according to experts, it does reduce seasonal melting. With rising temperatures, more than 500 Swiss glaciers have already vanished, and the government says 90% of the remaining 1,500 will go before the end of the century if nothing is done to cut emissions.
Yeah, we should really worry about losing glaciers and other ice. I mean, for a number of reasons. I mean, one is that they are a part of the way that the natural ecosystem operates. And so to lose larger volumes of ice probably means we're going to change the climate in those areas more rapidly. Ice is very white, so it reflects heat. If we move to bare rock, it absorbs heat, so we'll get more warming. The glaciers and their melt are significant sources of water downstream as well, and we should worry about the possibility of scarcity of water resources if we continue to melt the glaciers at this rate. So really, we should be worrying about it. And from my own perspective, we should also be very cautious about changing the natural world. There will be implications of doing so that we haven't even thought of yet.
Mont Blanc is the highest peak in the Alps and in Europe. It has 11 peaks reaching a lofty 4,000 meters above sea level in France and Italy, and attracts hundreds of thousands of tourists every year. In August 2020, scientists observed a fracture on the Planpensia Glacier on the Italian side of the mountain range. A block around 500,000 cubic meters could detach and slide down the mountain due to the high temperatures.
The reason why we sounded the alarm is not because of the speed at which this part of the glacier is moving, but because of the change in the temperature we had in the past few days.
Another glacier in the Italian Alps that is melting rapidly is the Presena Glacier. This glacier in northern Italy has lost over a third of its volume since 1993. Every summer, a team of conservationists lay out vast tarpaulin sheets to cover it over.
We cover the glacier with geotextile tarpaulin, which have the function of reflecting the sunlight, keeping a temperature lower than the external one and therefore keeping as much snow as possible.
Mantenere il più possibile il manto nevoso.
The Prasina Glacier is also turning pink. The colored ice, known as watermelon snow, is caused by an algae, a development that scientists believe could make the ice melt faster. Did you know that ice sheets contain about 99% of fresh water on Earth? There are only two ice sheets in the world, the Antarctic ice sheet and the Greenland ice sheet, and both are shedding ice at record rates. Last year in September, a massive chunk of ice larger than the city of Paris broke off from the Arctic's largest ice shelf because warmer temperatures in Greenland. The 113 square kilometer block broke off the Neogolf-Zoltfjorden Glacier in northeast Greenland, which scientists say had been expected given the rising average temperatures. The Arctic is heating up twice as fast as the rest of the planet, with Greenland's glaciers receding particularly quickly. The process is speeding up all by itself. Melting snow exposes ice underneath, which then absorbs the sun's rays and increases thawing. Ocean levels are rising due to the combination of melting ice and warmer sea temperatures, as warm water has greater volume than cold water. The melt rate is now about 57% faster than it was 3 decades ago. At the current rate, it's predicted by 2100 sea levels will rise between 26 centimeters and a meter. Imagine what will happen to coastal cities around the world.
We do face some really substantial problems ahead of coastal communities and coastal cities, facing this kind of double effect of sea levels rising, but also as the atmosphere warms and becomes more energetic, we see stronger storms, so bigger waves. So coastal communities face both a rising sea level and higher wave heights, and that potentially is very, very damaging indeed.
The Antarctic ice sheet is the largest block of ice on Earth, much larger than the Greenland one. In February 2020, a 9-day heat wave scorched Antarctica's northern tip. These satellite images reveal that nearly a quarter of Antarctic's island snow cover melted in that time. And this video captures the movement of one of the largest icebergs on record to have broken away from an ice shelf in Antarctica. Weighing more than 1 trillion tons, this iceberg, known as A68A, broke away from the Larsen C ice shelf in 2017. It's now on a collision course with a remote South Atlantic island that is home to thousands of penguins and seals. Melting glaciers, a threat to biodiversity. The humpback whale, a sea giant weighing 30 tons, travels thousands of kilometers to feed in the fjords of the Patagonian Glacier in Chile. But this glacier too is retreating, revealing rocks that were once invisible. It's spilling vast amounts of fresh water into the ocean. This could have serious consequences for whales. Changing water composition could harm their food supply. Scientists have put sensors into the water to watch over the melting glacier and the ocean's gentle giants. Be it mountain glaciers or continental glaciers, humans are exacerbating ice melt by burning fossil fuels that release carbon dioxide and black carbon. The glaciers are retreating and vanishing, and it's just the tip of the iceberg, because as and when they disappear, people will lose a lot more than ice.